Hey sports fans, Coach Nick here and welcome to B-Ball Breakdown. I thought in honor of Reggie Miller's induction to the Hall of Fame, we'd go through his famous 8.9 seconds, in which he scored 2 3-pointers and 2 free throws to beat the Knicks single-handedly in Game 1 of the '95 Eastern Conference semifinals. This had ramifications across the entire NBA, as after the Pacers won the 7th game in a bit of a steal, Pat Riley stepped down as a coach, and that let Jeff Van Gundy become a coach, creating a ripple effect across the NBA coaching carousel. So, sit back and enjoy the famous 8.9 seconds of Reggie Miller's career. The Knicks were led by Pat Riley and his assistant, Jeff Van Gundy. Charles Smith was still out there, 2 years after missing all those layups against Scottie Pippen and the Bulls. Here he had a great first half, but in typical Charles Smith fashion, scored all his points in the first half and none in the second. Charles Oakley had mastered the 20-footer and being a tough defender and good rebounder for the Knicks. I was never a fan of starting point guard Derek Harper, but he was the very definition of wily old veteran. John Starks was a player only Knicks fans could love, but he was a really tough-as-nails player, and boy could he shoot the rock. Anthony Mason was an undersized but physical specimen on the low block with a variety of unorthodox shots. And that brings us to Patrick Ewing, a source of frustration for Knicks fans even though he was one of the top centers of all time. While he makes this signature move, he had an awful game, shooting terribly and getting into foul trouble. Indiana was led by Larry Brown, who was coaching his 5th NBA team. And before hand down, man down, veteran Mark Jackson was the point guard. And Byron Scott was still around, playing out his string. The player of the game, though, was Rick Smits, as the Duncan Dutchman imposed his will across the court all throughout the game. He had great post moves, a nice pick-and-pop jumper, but bad feet. After getting Ewing in foul trouble, they tried everybody else on him, and it didn't work as he kept getting layups and inside shots all game. But let's not forget about the man of the hour, Reggie Miller. On this beautiful curl play, he nails a long jumper, but he did not play well at all in the first half, scoring very few points. The Knicks defense swarmed him and made it very difficult on every shot he tried to take, blocking 2 of them and making him pay on the other end as they came down in transition and Oakley hits another outside jumper. Midway through the second quarter, you can see he was having a tough time. But in the third quarter, Smits was taking advantage of Ewing not guarding him, and the Pacers were taking control of this game. It even got to the point where Reggie Miller hits a 3 in the corner and starts talking trash to Spike Lee, who's sitting in the front row. It looked bad for the Knicks in the third quarter. Even though they forced a bad Reggie Miller shot, they gave up 2 offensive rebounds and ultimately let Rick Smits get in there for the dunk, which yielded an 8-point lead deep into the third quarter. But as so often happened with the Knicks in this era, their defense got them back in the game, and an unlikely person in Hubert Davis was able to harass Reggie Miller and get a steal off of a blocked shot, which leads to a fast break layup and an easy 2 points. And it was the same Knicks defense that wore the Pacers down in the fourth quarter as they harassed them into mistakes. And here Reggie Miller is going to miss a rare free throw. Spike Lee is talking trash to him. And when Rick Smits gets his 6th foul, it doesn't look so good for the Pacers. Culminating in this awful possession where they have no direction on offense, they let the shot clock wind down, get no movement, and ultimately only get a drive by Mark Jackson, which gets blocked, and the Knicks recover the loose ball. Without Smits guarding Ewing, the Pacers are forced to double him in the post, leaving Mason open, and he gets an and one even though they were trying to foul him for the free throws. A notoriously terrible free throw shooter, look where his feet are. Of course he misses it, but there's Greg Anthony for the offensive rebound, which really kills the Pacers' chances, and they're forced to foul and stop the clock. Starks hits both, and this game is effectively over. Now here's where it gets exciting. Down 6, they're going to need a 3 with very little time on the clock, and I want you to watch what John Starks does on this defensive possession. For some reason, he's going to go on the wrong side, even though it's not even really a screen for Reggie Miller, giving him the slightest bit of room he needs to hit a very tough shot. Not a big deal, right? They're still up by 3, but they called their last time out way too early, and now after a trip by Reggie Miller, it's not called. They have to throw the ball in, and it's right to Miller, right for a 3 tie game. But here's a mistake by the Pacers. There's no need to foul here. They should just play defense. Instead, they're going to give the Knicks a chance to win the game on free throws. And all Starks has to do is hit a couple free throws. He's a 77% career free throw shooter, and he narrowly misses that one and starts to get a little tight around the throat. And guess what? That was short. And on the rebound, there is Patrick Ewing to win the game, bricks that one, and inexplicably, John Starks hammers Reggie Miller, and they have to call that foul, giving the Pacers the game, basically. And you can see that Pat Riley is completely stunned by this turn of events, by both teams making huge mistakes that ultimately cost the Knicks. 2 free throws later, the Knicks come down, again, no more timeouts, and Greg Anthony, who's in because Derek Harper got thrown out earlier in this game, trips, falls, no shot at tying the game.
Time runs out. Reggie Miller scoring 8 points in the final 32 seconds.
So there you have it, sports fans, a real lesson in how not to win a playoff game by both teams. The Pacer foul that gave Starks 2 free throws was a huge mistake. They should have just played the defense out and taken their chances stopping them and going to overtime. And then the mistake by John Starks to foul Reggie Miller and give him 2 free throws cost them the game. But also, what not to be overlooked was the fact that the Knicks called their last timeout way too early and would have benefited greatly from having an option of stopping the clock instead of throwing the ball to Reggie Miller on that game-tying 3-pointer. Well, stay tuned. Lots more in store. We have Kobe's 81 versus MJ's 69, and an article we're writing pretty soon that's coming out. So don't miss lots of great stuff coming up the rest of the summer on B-Ball Breakdown, because we're not a channel, we're a conversation. You win,